Michael Van Runkle here for HotCars.com, and welcome to my very first motorcycle review. No, seriously, I just got my motorcycle license about a month and a half ago, and Kawasaki was brave enough to lend me this Ninja 400 ABS. Now, some people might say, 400, that's pretty tiny. You're not gonna have a lot of power, but it's sort of a perfect beginner bike. It's got just enough power that you have to respect it. It's got sort of unrefined suspension that makes it kind of similar to the road bicycles that I'm used to riding. And it's got all the features that will help you understand what you're doing, because it's got a display that shows what gear you're in. And it's got ABS to save your life. But riding a motorcycle in Los Angeles is really not a ton of fun until you get up here in the canyons. So climb aboard, let's go for a quick ride, and I'm gonna walk you through everything I love and some of the things that I'm still getting used to about the Kawasaki Ninja 400 ABS. But first, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. Thanks. Cover the basics, the Ninja 400, it's actually 399cc, 8-valve, dual overhead cam, parallel twin engine. It's making like somewhere a little over 40 horsepower, 45 to 49 horsepower, 28 pound-feet of torque, or more like 25 at the rear wheel, and it weighs about 370 pounds. Kawasaki says 366. Getting used to it is a little bit of a challenge for me because I'm used to road bicycles where, in fact, the handlebars are much lower than the seat. This has a 30.9-inch seat height, which is important to know because I'm about 6'1" with long legs, and I'm pretty comfortable sitting here, but it is more upright than I'm used to for sure. But after getting used to that ride height, just in terms of where the center of balance is for your body and the bike, you also have to get used to your leg placement. And that was a big one for me because I got bad knees from playing lacrosse in college. So having my foot here on the brake pedal and then moving it off, and then on the other side using the shifter, it just takes a little bit of getting used to for sure. I'm just starting to get to the point where my transitions between gears are nice and smooth. Maybe one of the areas that I've struggled with the most is smoothly releasing the clutch lever. I've got big hands. I can palm a basketball with my left hand, not so much my right hand because I got a broken pinky a little bit, but the clutch lever travel is a fair amount longer than I would have expected, especially once you put gloves on. You sort of release it and then it's all the way to the fully out position before the clutch is fully engaged. And that's a little bit odd. Some bikes have an adjustable thing here where you can move that in a little bit, or maybe because this is a press loaner, that clutch is just getting a little bit worn. Either way, it does have a slipper clutch, which really helps you if you're a beginner and you want to have smooth downshifts. That learning about riding position has been a major part of learning how to ride a motorcycle for me. I'm used to carbon fiber road bikes that basically weigh nothing, and you can move them around, lean them around, hop over little bumps, etc., without really having to worry about the weight of the bike itself. This motorcycle, even though it's light for a modern motorcycle, is completely different in terms of the overall experience. As soon as you start accelerating, you can feel the bike's weight shift up. As soon as you start braking, the nose dips down a little bit. And then while turning, instead of leaning my body at the same exact angle as the bike, I'm learning how to relax my arms and lean my body over the edge to try and keep the bike more vertical at speed. Now that's a lot easier said than done, because you're literally putting your face closer and closer to the asphalt, which is pretty counterintuitive, but it actually allows you to have more control. You're using your inner thighs to sort of shift the weight of the bike and momentum, and then as you come out and get on the throttle again, you can sort of center up your body and get really into that flow. And that flow is a big part of the motorcycling experience for me too, and the Ninja 400 is perfect for that. It's not overly powerful. I'm not terrified that I might just yank on the throttle and do a wheelie or something. I don't think that's gonna happen, though maybe somebody who's a little bit more experienced than me could make it happen if they wanted to. It's got just enough power to be a little bit nerve-wracking, but not enough that you feel like you're in danger. And nothing's particularly fancy about the Ninja 400, but maybe that's a good thing. It's got a 310mm brake rotor up front, 220mm at the rear. It's got a normal fork, not an inverted fork like a lot of fancier motorcycles these days. And because the suspension is sort of stiff and unforgiving, it's maybe a little bit more like my carbon fiber road bike. So when I hit the brakes hard, it really doesn't dip too much. When I first got on a motorcycle and the first time I hit the brake, oh man, I thought I was gonna die. The nose dipped and I thought I was about to faceplant. Of course, that's not the case. They're designed to do that and to gobble up a little bit more of the road imperfections, because you are going a lot faster on a motorcycle than you will on a road bicycle, unless you're on the steepest descents, when the lightweight road bike can probably take a corner almost as fast, if not faster, than a motorcyclist. Those of you who watched the Tour de France and MotoGP, how would you compare Tom Pidcock's descent this year to riding a motorcycle? It looked pretty similar. Pidcock comes from mountain biking, and sort of in a strange coincidence, I had a Ducati e-bike at the same time as I was riding this Kawasaki Ninja all over LA. And I got to sort of see where that weight transfer comes from. You're really getting low and trying to do your best to shift your balance and the motorcycle. It's really kind of fun, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly, though I'm certainly glad that I've got all this armor on. It gets a little warm on a hot day here in LA, but this is a thick leather jacket from Speedy. It's got a little bit of ventilation in some cloth here and big time armor. I'm wearing these pants from Speedy too that are not quite as hardcore protection. I want to get a pair of full leathers, but these are great for warm weather, and they do have armor in the knees and hip pads. It's about being safe, but it's also about the confidence that comes from knowing you do have this armor on. You have the leather on in case you go down. Now, of course, I don't want to drop this Kawasaki Ninja 400 because I don't think Kawasaki would be very happy about that. But there is an element of danger that definitely comes with riding a motorcycle, especially in traffic on the way to get up to these Malibu hills, which is where I've been doing the majority of my practicing. I picked this bike up and immediately had to commute for about an hour on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, which is awful. Literally awful. Maybe I'll get used to it, but I doubt it. Going 70, 80, semi-trucks everywhere, cars, people on their phones. The wind really surprised me. I was headed north, which is really west on the 405 until you get to West LA. And there was a big headwind, cars causing a lot of crosswinds and swirls, and getting used to that all of a sudden was definitely a big learning curve. Up here in Malibu on a calm day like this, it's a lot easier to get into the flow and into the zone of riding a motorcycle with any kind of speed. Of course, I'm not riding this one with very much speed, but hey, I'm still a beginner. some of the things I've really been focusing on as a total beginner to help my riding become smoother and more confident, really being super careful about how I modulate the throttle. It's sort of on and off with this bike, but you gotta find that perfect zone where you're not lurching every time you come off the throttle or lurching back every time you go back on the throttle. And then downshift blipping, where I pull in the clutch, shift down with my foot, and give it a little blip and then let out the clutch lever. It's a completely different experience than my usual heel toe up here if I have a manual sports car in the hills or I'm on the track, which is just sort of rolling my foot over or actually doing the whole heel depending on the pedal spacing. And this one is more important. You can really feel the weight transfer in the bike, and you can feel the traction and the tires change just by nailing a perfect downshift, or more often the case in my case so far, missing downshifts and timing them badly and letting out the clutch too fast and getting a little wiggle. And that's not what you want in a motorcycle. You want to be smooth. They say in racing on the track, smooth is fast, and that's doubly important on a bike like this. Luckily, the parallel twin in the Kawasaki Ninja 400 is nice and high revving, which I love. It redlines at 12,000 RPM, so you've got a lot of rev range to play with your downshifting. So sometimes when I'm just at stop and go traffic or rolling through the neighborhood and stopping at stop signs, I actually use that as an opportunity to practice my downshifting. Shift up, hit a speed bump, shift down. It's fun. It's mastering a new art, which is a lot like driving a sports car, but in some ways gives you even more feedback. And because the Kawasaki Ninja 400 is relatively simple, that feedback is very easy to interpret. You're not giving it huge power and then being able to overcompensate for your own mistakes. It's sort of like driving a slow car fast. It's more of a learning experience. It takes more concentration, but you get more out of it. And my friend, who is really into motorcycles and has been pushing me along the way here, keeps saying, you need to get a tiny little bike and spend some time on the kart track, because that's where you really master the art of riding. And I believe him. As soon as I spent more time at Radford Racing School, where I did a week-long program, stepping up from a Challenger Hellcat to a Lotus Evora to a Dodge Viper and then a legit Formula 4 car, I felt my entire world change in terms of driving even regular commuter cars. And the same is happening with the motorcycle. When I get off the Kawasaki Ninja and get back on my road bike, my cornering technique has changed immediately. I'm going wider into the corner, staying wider, finding the apex later, shifting my weight a little bit differently. And I think it's making a difference. I think I'm going faster and having a little bit more confidence. Now, I don't want to overthink it. I want it all to come naturally. And part of that is just having more time on the bike and learning more about tire technology for motorcycles. These are 17-inch wheels. They're only 110 wide up front, 150 wide at the rear. But they do pretty good on the bumps. They're smaller than my road bike tires, but they've got a bigger contact patch, and you gotta find the confidence in that grip. The combination digital and analog tachometer has really also been helpful for me. You know, you're not supposed to look at your revs when you're downshifting and upshifting, but it helps to know where I am because I'm not used to the noise that this bike makes. It's not particularly loud, which is nice because my neighbors don't hate me, but it does give a good amount of feedback just through the seat of your pants and your ears, although having a helmet on doesn't help with that. But it does tell you your speed, tells you what gear you're in, which is important because I don't have a shifter to look at, like in cars where I'm not used to their shifting. And then it also has a little eco light that comes on when you're being a little bit more, shall we say, judicious in your application of throttle. I don't do that a lot, but occasionally in traffic, this has started to overheat a little bit, and you try to keep it in eco mode for as long as you possibly can. Altogether, it's just been a ton of fun. I love having to focus on improving my skills at something, and on the motorcycle, all that feedback really makes it an enjoyable experience. I think the Kawasaki Ninja 400 is a great starter place for anyone getting into motorcycling, but especially for me because the simplicity of it really lends me a bit of a comparison to road bicycling. Now, of course, I can't wait to step up to a more powerful motorcycle with a little bit better suspension, maybe a little bit stiffer of a clutch, adjustable levers, and really get into fine-tuning my ability to control the bike as I'm riding. I hope you learned something watching this about the Kawasaki Ninja 400 and about what it takes to sort of fine tune yourself as you're getting into the sport and art of motorcycling. Thanks as always for watching. Big thank you to Kawasaki for having the courage to loan me this Ninja 400. And as always, before you head out, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. Thanks.